describe the character you play in the film, and in what ways are you similar and different from the character you play?
So in West Side Story, I play Tony, and Tony is a street kid from New York City, and he was a member of the Jets, but then he got into some trouble at a rumble, beat up a kid pretty bad, and ended up going to prison for a year. Then during that time, he did a lot of self-reflection and thought about trying to change his life and put himself on a better path and be the man that he wants to be, a good man. And then we meet him in that hopeful yet unknowing place. And then when he sees Maria, I think that becomes the shining star of hope. I relate to Tony because I'm from New York City. I love walking around the streets. I love hanging out with my friends and playing basketball or climbing on things and just enjoying that New York City pedestrian life. I'm different from Tony, though, because I'm not an orphan. I come from a wonderful family that I love so much, and I'm lucky enough to be educated. And Tony is a very uneducated. He's an orphan. He comes from absolutely nothing. So, we have our similarities and, of course, our differences.
Great answer. How familiar were you with the stage play and earlier film prior to being cast?
So since the time I was a kid, me and my family have been massive fans of West Side Story. My father, when he was 17 years old, saw the 1957 Broadway musical with his brother, my Uncle Bob, and they both loved it so much. And growing up, I was always shown West Side Story, given the CD to listen to the original Broadway cast recording, and I watched the 1961 movie, and I loved the dancing, and I loved the grittiness of New York City in that time period. So yeah, I was a big fan of West Side Story, and now being able to be in this incredible production of it is just absolutely a dream come true.
Was the experience of being directed by Steven Spielberg anything like what you imagined it would be? And what, if anything, surprised you about it?
Working with Steven Spielberg, being directed by Steven Spielberg, was always a dream of mine. And I knew that it was going to be a very, very special experience. I knew that it was going to be, I was going to be pushed, and I knew that I was going to want to do the best work that I could possibly do. But I didn't know what a gentle soul he was, what a loving person he is, how supportive he is of everybody, how if he gives you criticism, he never makes you feel bad. He always just wants the best from you, and he makes everyone around him feel so supported, and loved, and he is just the greatest leader.
What do you think makes this film relevant for today's audience?
Well, West Side Story is a tale of all times. Of course, it's based off of Romeo and Juliet, which is also a timeless tale. And even today, it's relevant. Unfortunately, we live in a world of a house divided. Sometimes different groups of people misunderstand each other, hate each other, or are at war with another. And today we have that same issue. And West Side Story, you have love, which prevails all, which is the strongest force. But unfortunately, at the same time, you have the Jets and the Sharks, who end up being violent toward one another, and there's horrible tragedy in this film as well. But after the tragedy, both sides are able to realize that they've actually been making a big mistake, and that they should never have been violent with each other. They should have never hated each other, because they aren't that different after all. So I think today it's as relevant as ever, and I hope that audiences can watch this movie and think about how, even though we have our differences, we are all very much the same.
I love that. And our last question. What do you hope audiences take away from the experience of seeing the film?
I hope audiences, after seeing this film, are entertained, feel inspired to dance and love life and be full of joy, and also to have more understanding for each other and to celebrate our differences, and to realize that we come from a great world full of tons of different people, but at the same time, we are all one people, and that we all have the capability to love, and that ideally we should all love each other.